Shattered vows, Olivia. Bennett stared at her phone, the world crumbling around her. 3 hours before her wedding, and there they were. Photos of her fiancé, Richard, with another woman. Not just any woman, her cousin, Fiona. It was just once. Richard's message read beneath the evidence she'd been anonymously sent. A mistake. Please, let's talk before you do anything. The bridal suite suddenly felt suffocating. Outside, rain pelted against the windows of the countryside estate where she'd dreamed of marrying since childhood. Her mother's anxious knocks echoed against the door. Olivia? Everyone's asking where you are. The makeup artist is waiting. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. The ivory gown she'd spent months selecting now felt like a costume for a role she'd been foolish to accept. I'll be right there, she managed, her voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane inside her chest. When her mother's footsteps faded, Olivia gathered the voluminous skirts of her dress and slipped out through the terrace doors. The rain immediately soaked through the delicate lace and silk, but she couldn't feel it. Couldn't feel anything except the violent need to be anywhere. But here, she ran through the garden paths, mud splattering the hem of her once perfect gown. Security was focused on the front entrance where guests were arriving. No one noticed the bride fleeing through the back gate, down the hill toward the main road. Lightning cracked across the sky as Olivia reached the highway. Cars rushed past, headlights blurring through her tears in the downpour. She'd left her phone behind. No purse, no money. Just a ruined wedding dress and the crushing weight of humiliation. A sleek black Bentley slowed beside her, its tires hissing against the wet asphalt. Olivia kept walking, assuming it was a curious passerby. When the car pulled ahead and stopped, she finally paused, rain streaming down her face. The passenger window lowered, revealing a man with intense dark eyes and a concerned expression. "Are you all right?" His voice was deep, with a slight accent she couldn't place. "Perfect," Olivia laughed bitterly, mascara running down her cheeks. "Just taking my wedding dress for a walk in the rain." He studied her for a moment. "You'll catch pneumonia. Get in." "I don't know you." "Dominic Ravencroft." He offered the name like it should mean something. Perhaps it did, but Olivia's mind was too fractured to place it. "And you're clearly in trouble. I'm offering help, not kidnapping." Another car sped past, splashing more water onto her already drenched form. The absurdity of her situation suddenly hit her, standing on a highway in a wedding dress, refusing shelter because of propriety when her own fiancé had shown none. Fine. She opened the door, collapsing into the leather seat. "But I'm ruining your upholstery. It can be replaced." He handed her a cashmere scarf from the console. "You cannot." As they pulled away, Olivia caught a glimpse of herself in the side mirror, a ghost bride, pale and broken. She'd spent 28 years being the perfect daughter, the responsible sister, the loyal fiancée. For what? To be betrayed by the man she'd trusted with her future? "Where were you headed?" Dominic asked, his eyes fixed on the road. "Away." She twisted her engagement ring, the diamond catching the glow of the dashboard lights. "Anywhere but the Westfield estate." His hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the steering wheel. "The Westfield wedding? You're Olivia Bennett." She flinched at her name. "Not for long. I was about to become Olivia Lancaster, but it seems Richard had other plans. Plans involving my cousin and what appears to be a hotel room in Bristol." Dominic's jaw clenched. "Richard Lancaster of Lancaster Development. You know him. Our companies have crossed paths." Something dark flickered across his expression. "He's not known for his integrity in business." "I'm sorry to hear his personal life follows the same pattern." Olivia stared out at the rain-blurred landscape, watching her old life recede in the distance. "Where are we going?" "My estate is about 20 minutes from here. You can dry off, borrow some clothes, use the phone. After that, wherever you wish." He glanced at her. "Unless you have someone you'd prefer I call now?" The thought of facing her mother's disappointment, her father's anger, her friend's pity. It was unbearable. "No," she whispered. her wedding ring finally sliding off into her palm. There's no one. Shelter from the storm, the wrought iron gates of Ravenscroft Manor parted silently as Dominic's Bentley approached. Olivia stared through rain-streaked windows at the imposing stone mansion that emerged from the mist. Gothic arches and tall windows illuminated against the stormy night sky. It wasn't the ostentatious display of wealth she might have expected from a billionaire, but something more refined and private, almost fortress-like in its solitude. "You live here alone?" she asked as they pulled under a covered portico. Dominic, cut the engine. "With minimal staff, I value my privacy." An older woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes opened the massive front door before they'd even stepped from the car. Her expression registered surprise at the sight of Olivia's bedraggled wedding dress, but quickly composed into professional courtesy. "Mrs. Harrington, this is Miss Bennet. She needs dry clothes and perhaps something warm to drink," Dominic said, helping Olivia from the car. "Of course, sir. I'll prepare the blue guest suite." The housekeeper's gentle efficiency reminded Olivia of her grandmother, bringing unexpected comfort. Inside, the manor revealed itself to be less austere than its exterior suggested. Rich woods, Persian rugs, and tasteful art created an atmosphere of understated elegance. No photographs adorned the walls, Olivia noticed. No personal mementos of family or friends. Just like the man himself, the home revealed little of its owner's heart. "This way, miss." Mrs. Harrington guided her up a curved staircase. "A hot bath will help ward off any chill." The blue suite proved to be larger than Olivia's entire apartment in London. Mrs. Harrington efficiently ran a bath in the adjoining marble bathroom, laid out soft loungewear that must have belonged to Dominic's sister or perhaps a former girlfriend, and promised to return with tea. "Mr. Ravenscroft rarely brings guests here," the housekeeper said, her tone carefully neutral, "but he's a good man, despite what the papers say." Before Olivia could ask what she meant, Mrs. Harrington had disappeared, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the steady drumming of rain against leaded glass windows. The warm bath washed away the mud and rain, but couldn't touch the cold emptiness inside her chest. Olivia stared at her hands pruning in the scented water and realized she still clutched her engagement ring. With sudden resolve, she stood, wrapped herself in a plush towel, and dropped the diamond into a decorative bowl on the vanity. She would mail it back tomorrow, the final severing of ties. Dressed in borrowed clothes, hair still damp but combed, Olivia descended the stairs to find Dominic in what appeared to be a library. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls, a fire crackled in the hearth, and the subtle scent of leather and aged paper filled the air. He stood by a drinks cart, pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses. "Feeling better?" "Cleaner, at least." She accepted the offered brandy, noticing he'd changed into casual attire as well. Dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that softened his imposing presence without diminishing it. "Thank you for this. All of this." I recognized the look of someone fleeing something painful. He gestured toward a leather armchair near the fire. "I've worn it myself." Olivia sank into the chair, warming her hands around the glass. "The mysterious Dominic Ravenscroft has known heartbreak?" A shadow crossed his face. "We all have our stories." "Mine is embarrassingly cliché," she said, staring into the flames. "Devoted fiancé discovers betrayal hours before wedding, runs away like a madwoman, ruins expensive dress. Probably making headlines on gossip sites as we speak." "Is that what concerns you? The headlines?" The question struck deeper than he could know. "My father is Justice Bennet of the High Court. My mother runs 3 charitable foundations. The Bennet name matters, appearances matter. This scandal..." She took a long sip of brandy, welcoming its burn. "Let's just say I won't be welcome at Sunday dinner for a while." Dominic studied her with unexpected intensity. "You're worried about disappointing them. 28 years of being the perfect daughter, down the drain." She laughed without humor. "My sister Penelope eloped to Barcelona with her diving instructor last year. She's the family rebel. I was supposed to be the responsible one, making the advantageous match with the right family." "And what about what Olivia wants?" The question hung in the air between them. What did she want? For years, she'd buried her own desires beneath expectations. Her, parents, Richard's, societies. "I wanted a partner who wouldn't cheat on me with my cousin," she finally said. Apparently that was too much to ask. Dominic moved to the window, watching rain streak down the glass. 7 years ago, I was engaged to a woman named Elise. She was brilliant, ambitious, a perfect match according to everyone. 2 weeks before our wedding, I discovered she'd been selling company information to my competitors for months. Olivia's eyes widened. "What did you do?" "What I had to. I ended it, pressed charges, weathered the media storm." His profile was sharp against the firelight. "I learned that betrayal by someone you trust cuts deeper than any business loss. The money was irrelevant. It was the breach of faith that changed me. Is that why you live alone in this fortress?" He turned back to her, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes before disappearing behind careful control. "We all build different kinds of walls after being hurt." The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight. Olivia realized with a start that in another life, the one she'd planned, she would be dancing with Richard at their reception right now, blissfully unaware of his deception. "I should call my sister," she said quietly. "Let someone know I'm safe before they send search parties." Dominic nodded. "Use the phone in my study, complete privacy." As she stood to follow his directions, their hands brushed accidentally. The brief contact sent an unexpected warmth through her fingers, up her arm, settling somewhere beneath her ribs. The first real feeling since the numbness of betrayal had set in. "Olivia," he said, her name sounding different in his voice. "What happened today doesn't define you. Remember that." In the reflected firelight, she caught a glimpse of something in his eyes, not pity, which she would have hated, but recognition. The silent understanding between two people who had seen their carefully constructed worlds collapse and somehow survived. "Thank you," she whispered, meaning more than the shelter, more than the clothes or brandy or kind words. "Thank you for seeing me, not just the soaked bride or the disappointed daughter or the betrayed fiancé." For the first time since receiving those devastating photos, Olivia felt something like hope stirring beneath the wreckage of her plans. Tiny and fragile but alive. Whispers of possibility morning light filtered through gauzy curtains, rousing Olivia from the deepest sleep she'd had in months. For one disorienting moment, she forgot everything. The wedding, Richard's betrayal, her rain-soaked flight. Then reality crashed back, tempered only by the quiet elegance of Ravencroft Manor surrounding her. A soft knock at the door preceded Mrs. Harrington, who entered with a breakfast tray. "Good morning, Miss Bennet. I trust you slept well?" "Better than I had any right to," Olivia admitted, sitting up against plush pillows. "What time is it?" "Just past 9. Mr. Ravencroft had to attend an emergency meeting in London, but asked me to ensure you have everything you need." The housekeeper placed the tray across Olivia's lap, fresh croissants, berries, and steaming coffee. "He also asked me to give you this." She handed Olivia a cream-colored envelope. Inside was a business card with Dominic's private number handwritten. On the back, along with a note in bold, precise script, "Take all the time you need. The manor is at your disposal. Call if you require anything." Accompanying the note was a folded newspaper. Olivia's stomach clenched as she opened it to find a small article about her canceled wedding. Justice Bennet's daughter calls off high-profile wedding to real estate heir Richard Lancaster. Sources close to the family cite irreconcilable differences discovered at the 11th hour. No mention of her dramatic exit, no humiliating details. Someone, likely Dominic, had managed damage control. "Mrs. Harrington, did Mr. Ravencroft make some calls last night?" The housekeeper's smile was knowing. "Mr. Ravencroft has considerable influence when needed, miss." After breakfast, Olivia borrowed Mrs. Harrington's phone to call her sister. Penelope answered on the first ring. "Liv, where the hell are you? Everyone's losing their minds." "I'm safe," Olivia assured her. "I just couldn't face everyone after what Richard did." "That absolute worm," Penelope spat. "Fiona confessed everything when you disappeared. Dad's threatening to ruin him, and Mom's actually backing him up for once. It's glorious chaos." Despite everything, Olivia smiled. I need a few days, Pen, to figure out what comes next. Where are you staying? I'll come. No, Olivia said quickly. I need space from everyone. I'll be in touch soon, I promise. After hanging up, Olivia wandered through the manor's many rooms. A music room with a gleaming grand piano, a solarium filled with rare orchids, a gym with state-of-the-art equipment. Each space revealed something new about Dominic Ravencroft. Disciplined, appreciative of beauty, but intensely private. In the library, she discovered his collection focused heavily on architecture, philosophy, and classical literature. A worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo sat on an end table, a leather bookmark placed midway through. His favorite, Mrs. Harrington said, appearing in the doorway. He rereads it every year. A story about betrayal and revenge, Olivia noted. Fitting, I suppose. And redemption, miss, don't forget that part. Late afternoon brought the purr of the Bentley's engine. From the library window, Olivia watched Dominic emerge, his tailored suit and commanding presence a stark contrast to the casual man who'd shared brandy and confidences the night before. He found her still in the library, now curled up with his copy of Dumas. I see you've made yourself at home, he said, loosening his tie. I hope you don't mind. On the contrary, he sat across from her, fatigue evident in the lines around his eyes. It's refreshing to see someone enjoy this place. Most days it's just me and Mrs. Harrington rattling around these halls. Thank you for handling the press, she said, gesturing to the newspaper. My parents must have been relieved. Your father and I have crossed paths professionally. I simply made a few suggestions about managing the narrative. His expression softened. Have you decided what you'll do next? The question had occupied her thoughts all day. My flat in London is leased through Richard's company. My job at the foundation was secured through his mother's connections. She sighed. I built my entire life around his. Pathetic, isn't it? Practical, perhaps, until it wasn't. Dominic considered her thoughtfully. What did you study at university? Art history and restoration. I worked at the Cortlandt Gallery before Richard convinced me to take the foundation position, a position she'd accepted because it came with flexible hours for planning the wedding and future social obligations as Mrs. Lancaster. The Cortlandt is one of my favorite galleries, Dominic said, surprising her. Their Renaissance collection is unparalleled. You know art? I collect it selectively. He gestured to a painting above the fireplace, a stormy seascape she'd admired earlier. That's an original Turner. Art speaks truths that words often cannot. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition of shared sensibility, beneath their very different circumstances. The Cortlandt has an opening in their restoration department, Dominic said casually. The director mentioned it when I acquired a piece last month. Olivia straightened. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering information. What you do with it is entirely your choice. He stood, moving to pour himself a drink. You're welcome to stay here until you decide your next steps. The East Wing has a private entrance if you value independence. Why are you helping me? The question had burned in her mind all day. You don't know me. Dominic turned, his expression inscrutable. Perhaps I recognize something in you worth preserving. Over the next week, Olivia gradually rebuilt herself from the shattered pieces Richard had left behind. She interviewed at the Cortlandt without mentioning Dominic's name and secured the restoration position. She found a small flat in Chelsea affordable on her new salary. She retrieved her belongings from Richard's penthouse while he was conveniently away on business. Through it all, Dominic maintained a respectful distance while remaining a steady presence. They shared dinners in the Manor's intimate dining room, discussing art and literature rather than their painful pasts. He showed her his collection, pieces chosen not for value but for the emotions they evoked. She played his piano one evening, rusty skills returning as she lost herself in Chopin. You never mentioned you were a musician, he said, leaning against the piano. Just another thing I set aside for Richard. He preferred attending events to quiet evenings at home. His loss, Dominic murmured, his gaze lingering on her fingers against the ivory keys. The night before she was to leave for her new flat, Olivia found Dominic on the terrace watching distant lightning illuminate the countryside. The air was heavy with coming rain, like the night they'd met. "Full circle," she said, joining him at the stone balustrade. "Not quite," he replied. "You're not the same woman who climbed into my car 2 weeks ago." "No," she agreed. "I'm not." "Dinner next Friday," he said abruptly. "Not here. There's a small French restaurant in Notting Hill. Authentic, discreet." Olivia studied his profile, seeing past the billionaire facade to the man beneath, controlled yet vulnerable, powerful yet wounded. "Are you asking me on a date, Dominic Ravencroft?" He turned to face her fully. "I'm asking for the chance to know you beyond these circumstances. No obligation, no expectations." Thunder rumbled in the distance as possibility crackled between them. "Yes," she said simply. "I'd like that." Later that night, as she packed the few belongings she'd accumulated during her stay, Olivia realized something profound had shifted within her. The pain of Richard's betrayal had receded, not because of time, but because of perspective. In the shadow of Dominic's quiet strength and unexpected kindness, she'd glimpsed a different kind of relationship, one built on mutual respect rather than social convenience. Her phone buzzed with a text from Penelope. "Mom asking if you'll attend the Hargrove Charity Gala next month. Apparently maintaining appearances is more important than your broken heart." Typical. Olivia smiled, feeling a newfound freedom. For the first time in her life, she could choose her own path, make her own mistakes, follow her own heart, however uncertain that journey might be. As rain began to fall outside her window, she texted back, "Tell her I have other plans." Shadows of the past, the restoration room at the Cortlandt Gallery was Olivia's sanctuary. Here, beneath specialized lights, surrounded by the scent of linseed oil and varnish, she meticulously brought faded masterpieces back to life. 3 months into her new position, she was working on a delicate Flemish still life when her department head Josephine appeared in the doorway. "Someone's asking for you at reception," Josephine said, her expression peculiar. "Says he's an old friend." Olivia set down her tools, a sense of unease settling over her. She'd rebuilt her life carefully these past months. The job she loved, the small but charming flat filled with second-hand treasures, and most unexpectedly, her evolving relationship with Dominic. Their Friday dinners had become a cherished ritual, expanding to include gallery openings, quiet walks through Kew Gardens, and long conversations that stretched into the night. They moved slowly, both wary of past wounds reopening. Last week, he'd finally kissed her goodnight beneath the portico of her building. A gentle, questioning kiss that had left her breathless with possibility. The last person she expected to see in the Cortland's elegant lobby was Richard Lancaster. He stood examining a sculpture, his tailored suit and confident stance unchanged. When he turned, his practiced smile faltered slightly at her professional attire and the calm dignity she now wore like armor. "Olivia," he said, stepping forward as if to embrace her. She remained beyond his reach. "You look different." "What do you want, Richard?" Her voice was steady, though her heart raced. "Can we talk somewhere private? The cafe across the street, perhaps?" When she hesitated, he added, "Please, Liv, I owe you an explanation." "You don't owe me anything," she replied, "and I don't need explanations." 15 minutes, he pressed. "Then I'll never bother you again." Curiosity, not longing, made her agree. She sent a quick text to Dominic canceling their dinner plans, then followed Richard to the cafe, maintaining careful distance between them. Once seated, Richard leaned forward earnestly. "I've been in therapy since..." "What happened?" "I realize. Now I was sabotaging us because I was terrified of commitment." Olivia sipped her tea, unmoved. "Is Fiona part of your therapy too?" He flinched. "That was a mistake. She means nothing." "Neither do I, apparently." "That's not true." His hand reached for hers. She withdrew it. "Your disappearance woke me up, Liv. The press coverage, your father's fury. Do you know what it's done to my reputation? To the business? And there it was, his true concern. The Lancaster name suffered, she said flatly. How unfortunate. Our families have been connected for generations. A merger between Bennett Integrity and Lancaster. Development was the perfect partnership. His tone shifted, becoming the smooth negotiator she once admired. Your parents miss you at social functions. My mother asks about you constantly. We could put this behind us, rebuild together. The words hung between them like smoke. 3 months ago they might have suffocated her with obligation and expectation. Now they merely dissipated against her clarity. No. Richard blinked, unused to direct refusal. Excuse me? I said no. Olivia stood, gathering her bag. Goodbye, Richard. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist with unexpected force. Is it Ravencroft? Everyone knows you've been seeing him. Ice slid through her veins. Let go of me. He's using you to get to me. Our companies are bidding on the same development contract. Richard's handsome face twisted with contempt. Did you really think someone like him would be interested in you otherwise? You don't know anything about him, she said, wrenching free. Or about me anymore. He's damaged goods, Olivia. Did he tell you about the scandal with his last fiancée? About his brother's suicide? The Ravencrofts are cursed, everyone knows it. She left without another word, shaking with anger and something darker. Doubt. Richard's accusations about Dominic's motives had struck a nerve. Their connection had seemed so genuine. But wasn't that what she'd thought about Richard, too? Rain began to fall as she walked aimlessly through Mayfair, memories tumbling through her mind. Dominic had never mentioned a brother. He'd spoken of his broken engagement but offered few details beyond betrayal. What else didn't she know? Her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. Is everything all right? Before she could respond, another message appeared. I'm outside the Courtland. Josephine said you left with Lancaster. The protective concern in those words warmed her, pushing back against Richard's poisonous insinuations. She texted her location, and within 10 minutes, the black, Bentley appeared through the rain. Dominic emerged, concern etched across his features as he sheltered her with an umbrella. What happened? In the privacy of the car, words spilled out. Richard's appearance, his manipulative overtures, his accusations about Dominic's motives. With each revelation, Dominic's expression darkened, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. He mentioned your brother, she finished quietly, and suggested you're only seeing me to gain leverage over Lancaster development. Silence filled the car, broken only by rain drumming against the roof. My brother Julian took his life 12 years ago, Dominic finally said, his voice hollow. He was 22 and struggling with bipolar disorder. Our father refused to acknowledge his illness, called it weakness. After a particularly vicious argument, Julian drove his car off Beachy Head. Dominic, I'm so sorry. Olivia reached for his hand. The Ravencroft legacy, he continued bitterly. Wealth, power, and the inability to prevent those we love from self-destruction. He met her gaze. As for Lancaster's other accusation, yes, our companies are competing for the Riverside Quarter development, but I knew who you were before I stopped that night. If leveraging your connection was my aim, I would have pursued it long before now. Something in his tone made her pause. What do you mean, you knew who I was? Dominic sighed, pulling the car into a secluded viewpoint overlooking the rain-swept city. 5 years ago, Lancaster Development undercut my bid on the Harrington project by using inside information. My security team traced the leak to Elise, my then-fiancée. When confronted, she admitted Richard had seduced her to gain access to our proposals. Understanding dawned like cold light. The betrayal you mentioned, it was connected to Richard. Yes, I never told you because I didn't want our relationship tainted by old vendettas. His expression was raw with honesty. When I saw you in that wedding dress, I recognized your name but stopped because you needed help, not because of who you were marrying. And afterward, she whispered, when you learned I was supposed to marry him, I felt He searched for words. Protective, not because of any business rivalry, but because I understood exactly what kind of man had hurt you. Rain streaked down the windows, cocooning them in a world of muted grays and hushed confessions. There's something else you should know, Dominic said, turning fully toward her. The Riverside contract, I withdrew my bid last week. Why would you do that? Because some things matter more than business victories. His eyes held hers. Because I'm falling in love with you, Olivia, and I won't let anything, not your ex-fiancé, not corporate competition, not even my own past, jeopardize what we're building. The confession hung between them, vulnerable and true. In that moment, Olivia saw clearly what she'd been gradually realizing over these months. Dominic had never tried to possess her as Richard had. Instead, he'd given her space to rebuild herself, valuing her independence even while offering steady support. Richard wants me back, she said softly. He framed it as a business merger, the Bennett-Lancaster alliance restored. Pain flashed across Dominic's face, quickly masked. And what do you want? Olivia reached across the console, taking his face between her palms. I want someone who sees me, not my family name or social connections. Someone who understands that healing isn't linear. Someone who values truth even when it's difficult. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. I'm falling in love with you too, Dominic Ravencroft. Not because you rescued me that night, but because of who you've shown yourself to be every day since. His arms enfolded her, strong and sure, as the storm raged outside. In the shelter of their embrace, shadows from both their pasts seemed to recede, making space for something new to grow in the light. Later that evening, as they shared dinner, in Olivia's small flat, plans for the exclusive restaurant abandoned in favor of takeaway and candlelight, Dominic received a call that made his expression harden. Lancaster's spreading rumors, he said after hanging up, suggesting our relationship is a corporate revenge play. He's approached your father with concerns about my intentions. Olivia felt a flare of anger. He won't stop until he controls the narrative and me. What do you want to do? The question, so simple yet profound in its respect for her agency, cemented her resolve. I think, she said, taking his hand, it's time we both stepped out of the shadows. Together. Beyond the rain, the Hargrove Charity Gala represented everything Olivia had once structured her life around. Crystal chandeliers illuminating London's elite, champagne flowing freely as the wealthy performed philanthropy in designer attire. 6 months ago, she would have attended on Richard's arm, carefully maintaining the perfect image of a future Lancaster bride. Tonight, she entered alone. Her midnight blue gown was simpler than the elaborate confections she'd once favored. Her jewelry, minimal, her posture straight with newfound confidence. Conversations faltered as she passed. Her 3-month absence from society had fueled speculation. Most assumed she was nursing a broken heart in seclusion, not rebuilding her life on her own terms. Olivia, darling. Her mother glided forward, diamond earrings catching the light. You came. We were beginning to think you'd become a complete recluse. Hello, Mother. Olivia accepted a perfunctory kiss on each cheek. You look lovely. As do you. Different, but lovely. Eleanor Bennett's shrewd eyes assessed her daughter. Richard is here. He's been asking about you. I'm sure he has. Darling, everyone makes mistakes. The Lancasters are still very much hoping for reconciliation. Your father and Charles Lancaster were discussing it just yesterday. Olivia smiled tightly. I'm not a business merger to be negotiated, Mother, Eleanor sighed. Must you be so dramatic? Richard made one indiscretion. That I know of. And you threw away years of planning. Your sister elopes with a diving instructor, and you abandon a perfectly good match at the altar. Sometimes, I wonder where I went wrong with you girls. Before Olivia could respond, a ripple of interest moved through the crowd. She turned to see Dominic entering the ballroom, commanding attention without seeking it. Their plan had been to arrive separately, her idea, not his. But seeing him now, she questioned her own logic. His eyes found hers immediately, as if drawn by invisible thread. The slight softening of his expression was imperceptible to others, but spoke volumes to her. "Is that Dominic Ravencroft?" Eleanor whispered, scandalized. "What is he doing here? Supporting the children's hospital, I imagine." Olivia replied mildly. "It is a charity gala." Richard materialized at her elbow, as if conjured by the threat to his narrative. "Olivia, you look beautiful." "Richard?" She acknowledged him coolly. I have this dance." He extended his hand, confidence absolute. For old time's sake. Before she could refuse, her father approached. Justice Bennett, whose approval she'd sought her entire life. "Olivia," he said, his judicial demeanor firmly in place. "Richard has been explaining the situation to me. I believe you two should talk privately." The familiar pressure closed around her. Family expectations, social obligations, the weight of the Bennett name. For a moment she felt herself wavering, the old pattern of acquiescence rising from muscle memory. Then she caught Dominic's gaze, across the room. He wasn't moving toward her, wasn't attempting to intervene or stake a claim. He simply stood, a steady presence offering silent support for whatever choice she made. "No," she said quietly, then more firmly. "No. There's nothing to discuss." Richard's smile tightened. "Liv, don't make a scene. I'm not the one who sent compromising photos hours before our wedding," she replied, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I'm not the one who betrayed years of trust for a night with my cousin," Eleanor gasped. "Olivia, people will hear." "Good." She stepped back from Richard's outstretched hand. "Let them hear the truth for once instead of the convenient narrative you've all constructed." Justice Bennett's face darkened. "You're embarrassing this family." "I'm honoring myself," Olivia countered. "Something I should have done long ago." Richard leaned closer, voice low and menacing. "This is about Ravencroft, isn't it? Did you know he's been systematically targeting Lancaster Holdings since your little rain-soaked escape? Using you for insider information, no doubt." "Actually," came Dominic's voice as he approached, "I've been rather focused on more important matters these past months." His hand found the small of Olivia's back, a gentle pressure of solidarity. Like discovering that genuine connection matters more than corporate maneuvering, Richard's face flushed with anger. "This isn't over, Ravencroft. The Riverside contract is no longer my concern," Dominic finished smoothly. "Though I hear the environmental impact assessment has raised some interesting questions about your proposal. Entirely coincidental, I assure you." Before Richard could respond, the orchestra began a waltz. Dominic turned to Olivia, a question in his eyes. "Dance with me?" She placed her hand in his. "With pleasure." As he led her onto the floor, whispers followed, speculation blossoming in their wake. Olivia found, to her surprise, that she didn't care. The opinions that had once confined her now seemed as insubstantial as shadows. "Are you all right?" Dominic asked as they moved in perfect synchrony. "Better than all right," she said, realizing the truth of it. "I feel free." His arm tightened, around her waist. "Your parents seem displeased. They'll adapt. Or they won't." She followed his lead through a graceful turn. "Either way, I'm done living for their approval." The waltz ended, but they remained on the floor as a slower song began. Around them, other couples created respectful distance, their curious gazes tracking the unexpected pair. "I have something to show you," Dominic said. "After this, if you're willing to leave early." An hour later, they stood in the private gallery of Ravencroft Manor, a space Olivia had never seen despite her previous stay. Unlike the formal rooms of the main house, this space felt intensely personal, lit with soft amber light that enhanced rather than overwhelmed the artwork. "These aren't just investments," she realized, studying a vibrant Kandinsky. "This is your heart on these walls." "The only place I've ever truly expressed it," he admitted. "Until you." He guided her to a covered canvas in the center of the room. "This arrived yesterday from Vienna. I've been tracking it for years. It finally came available through a private estate sale. When he removed the covering, Olivia gasped. Before them stood a small but exquisite painting of a woman in a rain-drenched garden, her face turned toward distant light breaking through storm clouds. The technique was unmistakable. A lost Vermeer, she whispered, professional training overriding emotion. The composition, the light, it's his hand. I'm certain of it. It's called Woman After the Storm, Dominic said softly. The curator's notes suggest it was commissioned by a Dutch merchant for his wife after she survived a terrible illness. It represents resilience, renewal. Olivia turned to him, understanding dawning. This is why you withdrew from the Riverside project. This seemed a more worthwhile investment. His eyes held hers. The painting will be donated to the Cortland next month with one condition, that you lead the restoration team. Tears blurred her vision. Dominic, I'm not Richard, he said, taking her hands. I don't want to possess you or control your narrative. I want to build something real with you, Olivia, something that honors who we both are, scars and all. From his pocket, he withdrew a small velvet box, but rather than opening it, he placed it in her palm and closed her fingers around it. This isn't a proposal, not yet. It's a promise. His voice deepened with emotion. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, you open this. No timeline, no pressure. The choice will always be yours. Olivia looked down at the box in her hand, then back at the painting, at the woman emerging from her storm into new light. The symmetry wasn't lost on her. The night we met, she said, I was running from a life that was never truly mine. Every choice had been made for appearance, for family expectation, for the right connections. She stepped closer to him, her free hand rising to trace the strong line of his jaw. I never expected to find something authentic in the middle of that storm. Neither did I, he admitted. I'd convinced myself that isolation was safer than vulnerability. And now, his smile transformed his face, revealing the man few were privileged to see. Now I find that certain risks are worth taking. Outside the gallery windows, rain began to fall, a gentle spring shower rather than the violent downpour that had brought them together. Olivia listened to its rhythm, no longer hearing the echo of heartbreak but the promise of renewal. She carefully placed the unopened box on a nearby table and wound her arms around Dominic's neck. I don't need time, she whispered against his lips. I've spent my whole life waiting for permission to be happy. I'm done waiting. When she kissed him, it felt like coming home to a place she'd never been before. Unfamiliar, yet instantly recognizable. His arms enfolded her, strong and sure as the rain blessed the awakening earth outside. Later, much later, they stood together on the terrace where they'd first acknowledged the possibility growing between them. The night sky had cleared after the rain, stars emerging like scattered diamonds above the Ravencroft grounds. The small ring, an antique sapphire rather than a showy diamond, caught the moonlight on Olivia's finger. Unlike the ostentatious engagement ring Richard had selected to showcase his wealth, this one carried history, character, meaning, like the man who had offered it and the woman who had accepted. What happens now? She asked, leaning into his embrace. Whatever we decide, Dominic replied. Together. Below them, the gardens glistened with raindrops, each one capturing and reflecting the light of countless stars. Like possibilities. Like promises. Like the future stretching before them, not perfect or predetermined, but authentic and entirely their own. Olivia thought of the soaked wedding dress she'd abandoned months ago, now just a memory of a path not taken. The rain that had once symbolized her despair had become the beginning of her liberation. I love you, she said simply, words that once terrified her now flowing easily. Not because you rescued me that night, but because you showed me how to rescue myself. Dominic's arms tightened around her, his heartbeat steady against her back. And I love you, not despite our scars, but because of how beautifully we've both healed from them. Above them, the clouds parted completely, revealing a sky washed clean by the storm's passage. Together they stood, watching the moonlight transform ordinary raindrops into something precious, just as adversity had transformed them both into something stronger, truer, and infinitely more valuable than what they had been before. Beyond the rain, they had found each other. Beyond the pain, they had found purpose. And beyond the shadows of their pasts, they had found a future bright with possibility, one they would write together, one authentic choice at a time.